Welcome to Module 3 in the Windows Partner Training series. I'm Dave Field from Microsoft Partner Services, and today we're going to be talking about Internet Explorer 11 and Microsoft Edge. So what we're going to cover today is basically a quick overview of Internet Explorer and Microsoft Edge. We'll talk about how to accelerate migration to Windows Internet Explorer 11, as well as how to prepare for a Windows 10 upgrade by upgrading to Internet Explorer 11 now. And finally, how to leverage the available partner service offerings that we've built around this solution. First, let's start off with a list of kind of what to expect with the Windows 10 browser picture. We have, depending on the edition of Windows, various browsers that will be available. So starting at the top, for the desktop operating systems, and this includes tablets and all-in-ones as well, we have, depending on which servicing branch people are enrolled with, we have different availabilities. For people in current branch and current branch for business, which are the common rollouts of Windows 10 that you'll see in most enterprises, we will have both Microsoft Edge and Internet Explorer 11. And we'll talk a little bit more about servicing and current branch as we get into the module on that. For long-term servicing branch, which is for systems which are mostly static and don't change much, we don't include Microsoft Edge. And this is because Microsoft Edge is a universal app which is serviced by the Windows Store platform, and that's not available for that edition. We do, however, have Internet Explorer 11. For mobile operating systems, for the mobile Windows on Windows Phone, for instance, we have Microsoft Edge only because Internet Explorer is not really a touch-enabled interface, and so it's very tricky to do that on a smaller platform. For Surface Hub, we're still determining whether Internet Explorer 11 is a good fit, so we have not made these calls yet. Both are available for Xbox. And for IoT core systems, those systems which basically will be manning monitoring stations or non-visual displays, it doesn't make sense to have a browser at all, so they're not included there. And then finally for HoloLens, we haven't decided yet if Internet Explorer 11 makes sense in that format. So a little bit about roadmap. It's a common misconception that there is a deadline for Internet Explorer, that at some point Internet Explorer will end. So this slide really kind of gets into that a little bit. Starting January 12th, 2016, we will end support for Internet Explorers 8, 9, and 10. Internet Explorer 11, however, will continue to be supported until Windows 7 end of support. For users on Windows 8.1, it's the same story. Until the operating system support ends, Internet Explorer will be supported. And then finally for Windows 10, we add Microsoft Edge and will continue to support Internet Explorer as long as the OS is supported. So you can see by this slide we're looking out into 2020 and beyond for supporting Internet Explorer. So this is to kind of set to rest any concerns customers might have around needing to jump to Microsoft Edge because some support will be ending for IE, which is not the case. What we do want to emphasize, however, is if you're on Windows 7 today, getting up to Internet Explorer 11 will make the upgrade to Windows 10 easier. It's not a requirement to have this done before you upgrade to Windows 10, but since browser compatibility is often an issue, depending on internal applications or line of business portals, it's a good idea to go ahead and get that taken care of now. That way, when we go to Windows 10, it's just one less thing. So some of the benefits from Internet Explorer 11. As always, we continue to innovate and support additional standards. So some of the things we're including here, HTML5, CSS Level 3, we've had some of these for a while, but it's helpful to restate that these are still in the product. We've increased performance by allowing hardware acceleration of our browsing. We've got a new script engine that executes JavaScript much faster than we have in the past. And other prefetching, pre-rendering network improvements, and so on. We're improving security again by improving the Smart Screen filter, providing an enhanced protected mode, providing some password manager enhancements, blocking out-of-date ActiveX controls, and so on. And what I really want to draw attention to on this list is we have the capability through the Enterprise Mode site list to execute compatibility with specified sites, pushing all the way down to IE7 compatibility and even IE5 document mode. So we're reaching way back to a lot of the browser formats and capabilities that it may be used by older applications. So you can really leverage this as part of a compatibility picture moving forward. So regarding compatibility, we think of the web in basically two forms. We had the legacy web, where it was kind of the Wild West. There were a lot of standards that were competing to be recognized as industry standards, and some made it, some didn't. And so it was really difficult prior to Internet Explorer 8 to really focus on a common web standard. But around the time Internet Explorer 9 shipped, we were able to really focus on supporting factors like HTML5 and cascading style sheets at a certain level, and it really got easier for web developers to write standards-based websites and have Internet Explorer effectively render those. So that's kind of the picture we have with Internet Explorer 11. We just continue that legacy of supporting modern standards as they're ratified and then move forward into the future. So a little bit about enterprise mode for Internet Explorer. In the past, if you used compatibility view, you're familiar with this process. It took an older website and re-rendered it as a down-level browser for the purposes of compatibility. With enterprise mode, we have some additional controls, however. We can push compatibility mode or enterprise mode down to as low as Internet Explorer 7. Plus, we can execute additional document modes and really do some things around making those websites compatible. And so the idea is this is a way to centrally manage through the enterprise mode site list the compatibility capabilities across the organization. Here's some of the results we've seen from the enterprise mode as we've gone into using this in our TAP programs and through our Windows Insider programs. I won't read the quotes here, but essentially IT pros who used this achieved greater than 90% compatibility with websites by using Live IE11 or by leveraging the enterprise mode to support the down-level controls they needed to make their sites work. All right, so that kind of gets you up to speed a little bit on Internet Explorer 11. We'll talk more about enterprise mode a little later in this presentation, but now's the time to start talking about Microsoft Edge. And the way to think about Edge is really it's a good second browser. It's definitely the experience we want to look for going forward as a default browsing experience. But it's designed around the latest web standards and really doesn't give us the ability to throw back to some of the things that required some certain browser add-ons and things like that in the past. But it gives us safer browsing, it gives us faster browsing, and supports switching back to Internet Explorer 11 whenever you encounter an application that requires that backward compatibility. One of the great additional features for Microsoft Edge is it gives us the ability to collaborate through the built-in note-taking and sharing capability. When you're in the Microsoft Edge view, you can snap out a note, write on it with a pen or a highlighter, and then forward that to someone for collaboration or note-taking purposes. It's also the only browser we have that's integrated with Cortana to let us do those context-based searches more effectively. Plus, through being an enterprise app or a universal app, it's always kept up to date through the Windows Store servicing. So if Internet Explorer 11 was designed to support compatibility now and into the future. What we really expect from Microsoft Edge is to support interoperability now and into the future. So as we continue with successive releases of the Windows 10 line, you'll see greater and greater interoperability and collaboration built into the Microsoft Edge platform. So what do we say to customers about these two browsers? For those on Windows 7, Windows 8, 8.1, we want them to start upgrading to Internet Explorer 11 now in order to continue receiving their updates after January 12th. This also will ease migration to Windows 10 because that whole browser migration picture will be out of the way, and you'll be able to focus on Windows 10 application compatibility and imaging and deployment and so on. So what does this mean for partners? For partners, it uncovers a service opportunity in terms of helping customers tackle this browser migration now. Many organizations aren't ready to consider a Windows 10 upgrade. Maybe they want a new hardware refresh. Maybe they have other priorities at play. So this is an opportunity to engage with them now and discuss kind of the browser migration picture. Through our Windows Accelerate program, we have a 2-day browser migration POC offering. This is actually accessible through our Windows Accelerate portal, which you can get to at connect.microsoft.com/POC Jumpstart. So a little bit about this POC. We start with the kickoff meeting. It can be a pre-staged questionnaire that customers answer, then have a phone call to discuss kind of getting ready to do this. We go into a kickoff and overview session where we bring all the stakeholders to the table and discuss the approach we're going to take to do this proof of concept. And then we go into a workshop where we work out the picture for the organization around discovery of line of business portals and other internal sites, prioritizing which of those sites need remediation and which should be touched first, and then finally an assessment of the complete remediation picture. We discuss testing and remediation techniques, and then we move on to day 2, where we actually discuss browser management. We talk about the enterprise mode site list and how to manage that, and then we kind of focus on what kind of time it's going to take to remediate the existing websites to make them compatible without shims. And then finally we close out and provide next steps, including a statement of work for ongoing engagements around a browser migration. This is literally the same content, the same approach that Microsoft Consulting Services use with Microsoft customers. And this 2-day POC was developed by them and then provided to partners through our Windows Accelerate program. All right, so kind of back to the picture of web application compatibility. If Internet Explorer is going to support the modern web and modern web standards, and Edge is our collaboration platform going forward, what is the picture for compatibility with Windows 10? And really the thing we want to talk about here is there really is no direct compatibility link at the browser level. If we can get to Internet Explorer 11 and be ready to go there, we should have a trouble-free upgrade to Windows 10, at least as far as the application compatibility for web picture goes. Now, as we look at compatibility for applications, probably the biggest thing that we'll need to look at are the add-ons. These can be ActiveX controls, toolbars, other browsing extensions, the things you find when you go into Manage Add-ons in the Tools menu in Internet Explorer. I wish I could say add-ons didn't exist, and certainly Microsoft isn't blameless in creating add-ons, as you can see from this drawing. But if we understand what these are and can assess the compatibility of these going forward, we should be in a good position to be supported in Internet Explorer 11. So as we prepare to get into the application or the web compatibility picture, we need to understand a few things. One is the compatibility view, which we formerly had in IE10 and previous, is deprecated in favor of enterprise mode. Enterprise mode brings additional capabilities to bear, and so it basically got a rebranding and a whole management interface on the back end to help us manage the enterprise mode capabilities of the browser. We also have a process called Enterprise Site Discovery, which is a tool set we can provide to partners to help their customers inventory and assess their web applications throughout their organization. And then finally, we have a test and remediation approach that we can provide to take this project on. So in previous versions of IE, compatibility view gave us IE7 compatibility. Now with enterprise mode, we can go IE7, we can also do IE8. Plus we have that management capability that stands behind in terms of a enterprise compatibility site list. And the enterprise site discovery tool is essentially it's a group of scripts and an agent that run on the client and can follow a user through a day in the life of browsing with Internet Explorer. It runs with Internet Explorer 8, 9, 10, and even 11, and can create a path or a log of a user's interaction with these different websites. So an example might be a user browses the web using their current level of Internet Explorer and might experience a number of websites, one of which requires some sort of mitigation to make it work. So if they end up applying a document mode, a down-level document mode, or turning on enterprise mode to access this site, then this can be collected in a local data file, and then that can be consolidated into a picture of the web environment all up for the enterprise. Here's a list of some of the things that are covered by Enterprise Site Discovery. As we browse, we log the Internet Explorer version that we're using, URL of the browsed site, some GUIDs of ActiveX controls that are loaded by the site, whether or not a document mode was enabled, and if it was IE 10 or 11, even why that document mode was set. Hangs, crashes, numbers of visits, all of this can be used to indicate the severity of any application compatibility issues, as well as, by number of visits, how prevalent this problem is in the enterprise. This can all be used in the prioritization process as we start doing mitigations in the future. So a little bit more in depth on enterprise mode. We talked about how it enables compatibility to emulate Internet Explorer 7 and 8. But it's also designed to be managed from the back end. So we have a tool-based management system where we can administer this by an administrator to provide a list of the sites that need enterprise mode, as well as what level to set when we encounter these sites. And note on the bottom, enterprise mode will be supported until the year 2020. So we have a picture of long-term support and really no end in sight, in essence, for these websites that need help, to give enterprises really no reason to push back on an IE11 upgrade. So a little bit about how it works. If you encounter a website, maybe you have a group of pilot users, as they encounter sites, they might enable enterprise mode to mitigate any issue they might encounter. As these mitigations or these enterprise mode usage gets reported to administrators, these administrators can enter the enterprise mode site list manager tool, which they can use to track the URL of the site, what enterprise mode was enabled to use the page, and all of this can be tabulated in the enterprise mode site list for use by non-pilot users as they encounter these same sites. So around the approach we should take for test and remediation. We really need, for larger organizations, to consider using the Enterprise Site Discovery Toolkit. This allows you to automate the process of doing these assessments. On the slide, we talk about collecting this information monthly. As we're getting closer to January 12th, you'll probably want to accelerate this maybe even collect this information weekly or daily if you're trying to get a good picture of what's going on. And as part of assessing all this information coming from the Discovery Toolkit, we'll be able to focus on the applications, the web apps that are more critical. So once we have a list of these, we select a pilot group of users. We might go ahead and set up an enterprise mode site list and set these people to testing those same applications and confirm that we've achieved compatibility through the mitigation of putting on the site mode. And then finally, we can use their help to confirm that the add-ons to Internet Explorer are operating properly. Once we have this in place, we're in a position where we're probably okay to go ahead and upgrade, but we still want to involve developers to put a final permanent fix on these websites. So they can use the information from the enterprise mode site list as well to identify which websites need help, and then they can use the F12 developer tool inside the browser to determine which compatibility issues the site is experiencing and then code those out of that site. And through this process, through assessing and testing, applying the mitigations, and then launching a remediation project, we should be able to confidently deploy Internet Explorer 11 to Windows 7 and 8.1, and in turn be ready to deploy Windows 10 without the concern of Internet Explorer compatibility. So all of this really defines a controlled approach for assessing and preparing for this upgrade. For users on down-level platforms who might still be on Windows XP and Windows Vista, we don't necessarily have the same tools available, but we still can have these users with IE 8, 9, and 10 start testing and experiencing some of these capabilities as well and get them ready to upgrade. All right, so for this slide we're talking about basically how this looks from the top down. As users are experiencing these different web pages and collecting data into the collection point, which is a local file on their system, we can perform bulk imports of that file into a reporting system. If we're using System Center Configuration Manager, we can pull these information into the SCCM inventory. Otherwise, we can create a bulk import of the Site Discovery XML files and tabulate those results in a portal. At this point, it's fair to say that there's some assembly required as we don't have this consolidation capability native in the tool. But working with administrators, we can provide this consolidation. Once we have the consolidated enterprise mode site list, we can set this into the site list manager. And in this screenshot, we show setting up a URL, setting a IE document mode. In this case, IE 11 document mode is selected, but you can see we can go down to IE 5 if necessary. We set this, and then this will control the behavior of Internet Explorer 11 as we go forward. Then the next step is to record this in the enterprise mode site list, deploy it out to Internet Explorer 11 systems, and then test and deploy based on those results. So in terms of reviewing, we talked about how to use the browser migration POC to support your customers through upgrades. We talked about some of the discovery and remediation capabilities we have. And we talked about basically the differences between IE 11 and Microsoft Edge. It's important to stop and really think about this in perspective of previous Internet Explorer upgrades. Chances are, if you've been at this for more than 3 years, you've experienced an Internet Explorer upgrade. And it's important to kind of keep that perspective as we go forward. It's really not, it's not a blocker in terms of blocking the operating system. It's something to be considered, and since it's tied to the OS, it definitely could lead to issues. But if we deal with it up front and get Internet Explorer 11 done and solid, then we can get to Windows 10 without any of that confusion. This completes Module 3 of the Windows Partner Technical Series. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you later.